Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to getting up to speed. Today, we're tackling a really specific but foundational market, composite superhard materials, globally.
Globally.
Yeah, we've got this comprehensive report here from Cognitive Market Research. It looks at projections, let's see, from 2021 right through to 2033. So our mission today, pretty simple, really. We want to pull out the key takeaways for you, sales figures, growth trends, which regions are hot, basically give you a fast, clear picture of this specialized market. And honestly, there are some surprising growth spots we found.
Absolutely. And it's worth remembering why we track this. These composite superhard materials, they're not just niche items. They're incredibly durable,
Yeah.
right? Essential in, well, also to heavy industries like manufacturing, tooling, mining, construction,
Yeah.
even some electronics.
Yeah.
So looking at this market, it's more than just the materials. It really acts as a kind of indicator for broader industrial trends worldwide. Sets the scene for the numbers.
Okay, great context. Let's unpack this then, starting with the global view, the big picture. So the report kicks off with 2021. Global sales revenue was $5,535.49 million, just over $5.5 billion. And looking forward, it's projected to hit $6,857.5 million by 2025, and then quite a jump by 2033, projected at $10,524.1 million, over $10.5 billion, which gives us a global compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, that's 5.5%.
Right. And that 5.5% CAGR globally over more than a decade, that's significant. It tells you this is a really robust market. It's expanding consistently, not just a flash in the pan. It points to, growing demand that's deeply embedded across key industries, plus ongoing innovation keeping these materials relevant.
Okay, so a solid global picture. Now let's zoom in a bit. How do the different regions stack up? Let's start with North America. Their total revenue in 2021 was $1,162.45 million. So over $1.1 billion. Projected to reach $1,422.36 million in 2025 and $2,134.64 million by 2033. Just over $2.1 billion. The overall CAGR for North America comes in at 5.206%, slightly below the global average, but still strong. But here's where it gets interesting, like you said. Drilling down into the countries, the U.S., obviously the biggest chunk. 2021 was $880 million, heading towards $1.5 billion by 2033. Its CAGR is 4.783%, steady. But then look at Canada. It started smaller, $175 million in 2021. But it's projected to hit $357 million by 2033. For the CAGR there, 6.649%. That's the highest in North America.
Exactly. And that difference, that tells a story. Mexico's high growth, that's 6.6%, often signals significant new investment. Manufacturing hubs, maybe infrastructure booms, could be supply chain shifts, could be strong domestic demand. The U.S., being a more mature, larger market, naturally grows a bit slower, even though the dollar amounts are bigger. And Canada's rate, over 6%, suggests specific sectors are really driving demand there too. Maybe resources, maybe heavy industry.
Interesting dynamic. Okay, let's hop across the pond to Europe. Europe's total revenue in 2021, $1,057.28 million, so just over $1 billion. Projected to reach $1,280.31 million in 2025 and $1,899.06 million by 2033, almost $1.9 billion. The overall CAGR for Europe is 5.052%, again, slightly under the global average. And within Europe, it's quite a mixed bag, isn't it? You've got the UK growing strongly at 5.756% CAGR, Germany too, 5.563%, pretty robust. France is a bit lower, 4.821%. Italy, 4.445%. Spain, 4.611%, kind of mid-range. But then Russia, much slower. Projected CAGR is only 2.881%. And Sweden is also on the lower side, 3.462%.
Right, it's a real patchwork. Those stronger rates in the UK and Germany likely tie into their big manufacturing bases, maybe ongoing modernization efforts. But Russia's lower figure, well, that could be down to several things. Slower tech adoption, maybe different economic priorities, or just broader economic conditions impacting industrial demand there.
Yeah, lots of local factors at play. What about some others? Denmark looks decent at 5.167%, Switzerland 4.54%, Luxembourg 5.268%, and the rest of Europe category actually has quite a strong CAGR, 5.718%.
That rest of Europe figure is interesting. It suggests growth isn't just confined to the biggest players. There's dynamism elsewhere too, perhaps in Central or Eastern Europe.
Okay, let's shift focus now to Asia Pacific. This region is, well, it's huge in this market. 2021 revenue was $2,330.44 million. That's over $2.3 billion, already the largest back then. Projected to hit $2,859.58 million in 2025, and a massive $4,325.41 million by 2033, over $4.3 billion. The overall CAGR for APAC is 5.309%, so right around the global average, but on a much larger base. And the key players within APAC, China, unsurprisingly, dominates, leads by far. China's CGR is projected at 5.622%.
Which, given its scale, is really driving a lot of that global growth figure we saw earlier.
Definitely. Then you have Japan growing a bit slower at 4.707%. South Korea, similar, 4.537%. Australia, 4.565%. But look at India. The report highlights strong growth there, 6.26% CGR. That's quite high.
Very high. India's growth is significant. It points toward, rapid industrial expansion, big infrastructure projects, things that gobble up these kinds of materials. It reinforces Asia-Pacific's role not just as a user, but as a major hub for manufacturing and development itself.
What about other parts of APAC? Singapore looks solid at 5.447%. Southeast Asia as a whole also strong, 5.809%. Taiwan at 5.098%.
Yeah, so broad strength across the region, really. Led by China, but with India and Southeast Asia showing particularly dynamic growth.
Okay, moving on. Let's head to South America. Smaller market overall. 2021 revenue was $365.342 million, projected to grow to $439.153 million in 2025, and $642.555 million by 2033. The CAGR for South America is 4.873%. Bit more modest. Within the region, the key countries look fairly steady. Brazil is at 5.202% CAGR. Argentina, 5.673%. So consistent mid-range growth in the main economies seems fairly stable.
But then the rest of South America category,
Yeah.
the CAGR is only 1.675%, really quite low.
Yeah. That suggests the market there is very concentrated in those larger economies we just mentioned. The adoption or the industrial base needing these materials might be much less developed in the smaller nations within that rest of category. Right, so a market driven by a few key players there. Okay, next up, the Middle East. This region shows some real dynamism. 2021 revenue was $359.807 million, similar starting point to South America. But look at the projection for 2033, $725.801 million. It's projected to more than double. And the CAGR reflects that, 6.073%. That's one of the higher regional growth rates.
Definitely a strong performer.
And within the region, Saudi Arabia is leading in terms of market size and has a very strong CAGR, 6.479%. Turkey is also growing well, 5.816%. Egypt, 5.726%. Qatar, 6.205%. But the UAE really stands out, highest CAGR in the region at 6.61%.
Wow, yeah. That kind of growth, especially in Saudi Arabia and the UAE, it strongly points to those big diversification efforts we hear about, moving beyond oil and gas, investing heavily in manufacturing, mass construction, new tech sectors. All of that creates huge demand for high-performance materials like these. Makes it a really hot market.
And the rest of the Middle East, a bit slower, 3.814% CAGR. Similar pattern to South America, maybe?
Seems like it. Again, suggesting concentration in those key, rapidly developing economies.
Okay, finally, let's look at Africa. The report here shows some, frankly, remarkable projections. Starting small in 2021, $260.168 million, but projected to hit $403.226 million by 2025, and then soar to $796.653 million by 2033, nearly $800 million. It's set to triple. And the CAGR reflects this dramatic growth. 8.884%. That is easily the strongest regional growth rate globally.
Incredible numbers, almost 9% average annual growth over a decade. That's huge potential.
And the country's driving it. Nigeria shows really strong growth, 8.385% CAGR. The rest of Africa category is also very high, 8.689%. But get this, that's market leading, not just in Africa, but globally based on these figures.
Exactly. What on earth is driving that kind of exceptional growth, especially in South Africa? Well, it has to signify a really rapid pace of industrialization or development. Could be massive investment in mining South Africa's rich in resources. Or maybe major infrastructure upgrades, new manufacturing sectors coming online. It really underscores the potential people talk about in Africa. It suggests that potential is starting to translate into serious demand for foundational industrial materials, an emerging powerhouse.
Amazing. Okay, so we've toured the globe. Let's try and wrap this up. What's the big takeaway for you, the listener?
The overall picture seems clear. The composite superhard materials market is definitely growing, steadily expanding worldwide. But the pace of that growth varies a lot. While places like the US and Europe are growing solidly, the real headline-grabbing growth, the fastest expansion, is projected in Africa, the Middle East, and specific parts of Asia, like India. Exactly. And understanding these trends, for you, it isn't just about abstract market data. It gives you a window into where global industrial development is hitting the accelerator, where major infrastructure is being built out. Essentially, where the materials that underpin modern industry are finding their fastest-growing markets. It paints a picture of shifting economic momentum.
So, thinking about that, Considering this projected growth, especially in developing regions, what's the next big thing these materials might enable? Or maybe how will this rising demand change global supply chains or impact how we manage the resources needed to make them over the next decade? Just something for you to think about.